Hello everybody, I'm Woz.
And I'm Phil.
And welcome to a brand new series of Teas Around the World, where we'll be taking another entertaining and educational look of the world of teas. Today, we travel to India, to West Bengal, and to Darjeeling, home to countless numbers of tea gardens and tea estates. Now, India, Phil, is one of the world's major tea producers. According to the Global Trade magazine in 2018, India accounted for about 20% of the world's tea production and consumption. Now, as you can see here, Darjeeling tea is so called because its leaves are grown, as you can see, in the high altitude, slopey, and also mountain foothills of the Himalayan region of Darjeeling. The tropical climate of this region is perfect for growing tea leaves. Now, to trace the origins of this tea, we briefly need to turn the clock back to the middle of the 19th century, and to the time when the East India Company, which had been formed to promote trade in the Indian Ocean region, was busy at its work. Now, one of its employees was a Dr. Archibald Campbell. Dr. Campbell was appointed as superintendent of Darjeeling by the company following his transfer from Kathmandu in neighbouring Nepal. Now, Dr. Campbell was a surgeon, but he was also very interested in the business side of botany. And with help from colleagues in the East India Company, he was able to bring over some seeds from the Kuaman region in northeast India to try cultivating them. And as an experiment, he planted them in his garden. And following a very successful harvest, he made some more experiments, and they were equally successful. Demand then grew throughout the world, especially in Britain. And the British were looking to establish a production base as an alternative to relying on trade with China. And so tea began to be more widely cultivated in what was later to become the tea gardens or tea estates as we know them today. And eventually it became known as Darjeeling tea. British colonial rule ended in the late 1940s. British India was partitioned to India and Pakistan, and the British sold their stakes in the gardens to local businessmen. In 1953, the Tea Board of India was established to regulate the production of tea and also to promote it locally and internationally. And it continues this work to this day.
Now, I'd like to mention a little bit about sort of the reason why tea exists in India, right? So the British really had a reliance on China, and they wanted to get away from that because it's expensive and a host of other reasons. It's important to understand the drinking differences. You know, drinking tea for people in China is a bit different than you might find in Britain. Mm-hmm. In Britain, they like milk and sugar.
Yes.
That's not something you'll really
as you can
find.
See here, yes.
Exactly. So the tea in India was really just started to give you that nice, thick, brisk cup that stands up to milk and sugar.
Now, Phil, tea connoisseurs will tell you that Darjeeling comes in a variety of forms, including the times of the year that it is harvested, known as flushes. First flush is harvested in March and April, and it follows the spring rains. It has a very light amber gold colour, a sweet aroma, and spicy tones. Now, second flush, Phil, is harvested in late May and June and produces a darker amber, fuller bodied, muscatel flavoured cup. Autumnal flush is harvested in the fall after the rainy season and has a somewhat less delicate flavour, less spicy tones, but does have a much fuller body and a darker colour. Sometimes the autumnal flush might be preceded by a monsoon flush in around about September, depending on how early or late the monsoon season comes and goes. Now, Phil, we're going to use the time we have available today to give out a very brief outline of how the leaves are harvested and processed to make the black version of Darjeeling that we're going to show you today. Now, as you can see with this picture, the field workers pluck the leaves by hand using the industry rule of 2 leaves and a bud, or tip. This is where all the nutrients and the wonderful tea flavour is concentrated. They then put these leaves into baskets which they have by their side or over their shoulder. Now, once the leaves are brought back to the factory to be processed, they are put through a manufacturing process to bring them to the version that will be used to buy in the shops. So first comes the withering. This is where the leaves are put onto long tables, and this is where the moisture is reduced by ventilating them with cool air for what can be anything up to about 20-24 hours, depending on the local humidity and climate. Next in the process, Phil, comes the rolling. This is where the leaves are put into rolling machines, which move in opposite directions to gently twist the leaves so that their cell membranes are opened to allow the enzymes to be exposed to the oxygen in the air. This starts the oxidation of the leaves. This is a process we talked about on a number of occasions during the first series. This can take anywhere between about 30 and about 60 minutes. And this oxidizing process then continues when the leaves are brought to another area for several hours so that they can develop their flavour and aroma but lose a little bit of their bitterness. And then finally, Phil, the leaves are subjected to drying or firing, where they are run through a hot air oven for about 20 to 30 minutes. And that gives them their darkish colour and reduces their moisture content to around about 2 or 3%. And then finally comes the grading. This is where mesh sifters are used to sort the tea leaves into different sizes and grades before the teas are test tasted on site. Okay, now, if you'd like to taste Darjeeling tea, it is widely available here in the USA. It can be acquired in its classic loose leaf form, online as we have done, or can be bought at specialty outlets such as the Buford Highway Farmers Market in Doraville in DeKalb County. It can also be bought as tea bags in most grocery stores. The tea bags will likely, though, contain the slightly lower graded quality fannings or dust that occurs during tea production. Now, we would love to share with you all these varieties, but in the time we have available, we're going to make 2 teas. One is a first flush and one is a second flush. The leaves for this first flush originate from the Puttagong tea estate in northern Darjeeling. Now, this tea is graded at the highest possible grade in the tea industry's system of grading or nomenclature. This is something that we'll be talking about in a lot more detail in the next episode. And the teas for this second flush originate from the Namring Upper Tea Estate in Darjeeling. Now, before we add the hot water to make these teas, here are what the leaves look like. This is the first flush, and this is the second flush. Okay, Phil, let's make the tea. Now, to do this, what you would normally do is put 1 teaspoonful of the tea into the pot per person, plus 1 for the pot. And then we put the kettle on and boil the water. And then we transfer the water immediately into the teapot. So we've just boiled this tea. Let's add it.
Move that for you. That's good right there.
Okay, and now we're going to keep a watch, particularly on the colours. So before we taste these, just to mention that these were both plucked this year, 2020. And I think we're nearly ready. We just let it brew for about 3 minutes, around about 3 minutes. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So what have we got to say for those 3 minutes?
Well, I mean, one thing right now, you can even see the first flush by you is actually lighter in color already than the second flush by me.
Yes, the aroma's wonderful.
And I think actually we're about at the 3 minute point.
And I don't know if you, the viewers, noticed, but look at the difference in the colours there.
Yeah. This one's getting really beautifully, like almost like a caramel, like a red caramel.
Yeah.
All right, and we're gonna remove the leaves here.
Yep.
And you generally want to do this with all of your teas because the longer you let it steep, the less desirable it gets.
Yeah.
And with these leaves, you can, in fact, probably brew them a second time because they're using the sort of the full leaf. If you're using a tea bag with like the fannings, as you mentioned prior, that's just going to give you a one steep. And you might find that with those, you'll throw it in a cup, for example, pour the water in, and the color immediately just fills out. That's how fast it extracts everything. So shall we start with
Let's
the
partake,
first?
shall we? Yes,
All
let's
right,
partake.
Excellent.
Yes.
Let me move this over here. We'll start with the lighter one first. Tend to go with the light one. That's good for me. Thank you. Wow. Yeah. Look, I mean, like the color right here is just side by side.
That is delicious.
Yeah, it's very nice. There's a sweetness to it.
Yeah.
You know, it's very sweet.
Almost, yeah.
A little bit of an almondy, I think, you know.
Citrusy as well. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I'm a slurper. I like tea slurping.
That is absolutely delicious.
Yes.
And the magic of TV allows us to introduce you our second flush tea. So this is from the Narmring estate. Again, plucked in 2020, this year.
Let's do a little
Thank you,
taste.
Phil.
You're welcome. Now, one thing it's we'll just do a little bit so it cools. For these teas, especially the first flush, really, if you let it cool a bit, you'll get possibly more enjoyment out of all the flavors that you can sense. So that's why I'm going to for this one, I'm just going to pour a little bit.
Yeah.
Oh, that's nice. It's a little bit richer.
Yeah. Fuller body is there as well. Oh, it's delicious.
Yeah, that's nice.
And you know what I'm going to do? I'm just going to add a little bit of milk.
Oh, beautiful.
Yeah.
And you know, between the two, especially the first and
Take
second
milk,
flush,
or you like it on the rocks, yeah?
I do like it just black, but especially between these particular teas, the milk will certainly stand up more a little bit to the second flush here.
Tastes wonderful with the milk as well.
That's quite delightful. Oh yeah, you really. I just got that sort of bright fruit note in the back. You know, that's really beautiful.
The back of the throat is talking to me right now.
Absolutely.
So, thank you for tuning into today's show. We hope you enjoyed our look at this very famous tea from India. And we also hope that we help fire your imagination on where this tea comes from and how it's harvested and processed. If you'd like to leave a question or a comment, please feel free to use the space below this video. And also, please feel free to use the links that are provided. Also, if you would like, why not just simply leave us a like? And also subscribe to our YouTube channel. And finally, we'd like to encourage you to search for Darjeeling Tea on YouTube. There you'll find lots of fascinating little videos which give you an idea of the way it's harvested, the beautiful scenery of the Darjeeling area, and the method of production. Next time, we take you back to the subcontinent and to explore another of India's famous teas, Assam. So until then, thank you again for tuning into our show today. Please stay safe, please stay healthy, and in the meantime, cheers.